This is Subhendu Kaur, librarian of VS Mahavidyalaya from West Bengal. I am going to present a topic that is institutional repository and its basic concepts. Today we are going to cover the following topics. What is a repository? An institutional repository? Why need to be open while creating an institutional repository? What should we keep in mind while creating a digital repository? Some important questions and the copyright issues related to digital repositories. Now, what is a repository? A digital repository is a mechanism for managing and storing digital contents. Repositories can be subject or institutional in their focus. Putting content into an institutional repository enables staff and institutions to manage and preserve it for future use, and thereafter derive maximum value from it. A repository can support research, learning, and administrative processes. Repositories use open standards to ensure that the content is accessible and that it can be searched and retrieved for later use. The use of these agreed international standards allows mechanisms to be get up which import, export, identify, store, and retrieve the digital content within the repository. Now, what is an institutional repository? This is nothing but a digital repository which has been used and installed by an institution for their own use. That is an archive for collecting, preserving, and disseminating digital copies of the intellectual output of an institution, particularly a research and academic institution. What can go into a repository? That is what we can preserve into a digital repository. Typically, contents can include any types of outputs, research outputs such as journal articles and research data, key thesis, e-learning, objects and teaching materials, and administrative data. Some repositories only take in particular terms such as thesis and journal papers, while others seek to gather any credible scholarly work produced by the institution limited only by each author's written right from the publishers. Why need to be open and what are the benefits to use the open standards and open access and open source software while creating a digital repository? We can discuss these things in the point of view of a researcher, the point of view of an institution, and point of view of the publishers also. The benefits for the researchers are increased visibility of researchers' output and consequently the department and the institution. Potentially increased impact of your publication by you as an author at the institution. Research made freely available can be disseminated more widely and have greater impact on the scholarly community. Work done on citation analysis has demonstrated the research that is made freely available is going to be easier to cite. In fast-moving subjects such as electronics, medicines, etc., researchers can make preprints as opposed to peer-reviewed papers available via a repository to establish that they were fast and get the feedback from the users. It can help you to manage and store digital content connected with your research, including the underlying research data. It also helps researchers manage the likely requirement of funding bodies for publication to make available in the repository, provides the possibility to standardize institutional records, that is academic CVs, published papers by the institution. It can allow the creation of personalized publication list also. It offers users metrics so researchers can determine hit rates on the specific paper and they can see the citations of their own papers. Create the potential to undertake citation analysis through following links to paper held in other repositories. It can have some benefits for the institution also, like a repository can store many types of content that is not necessarily published, sometimes known as grey literature. Learning and teaching materials previously locked away in virtual learning environments for specific courses could be stored centrally to increase the potential reuse, repurposing, and sharing of the materials. Repositories could provide cost saving in the long run provided that a significant amount of content is deposited in them. It can offer a greater flexibility over the websites with better security and preservation of various kinds of digital materials through the collection and standardized metadata about each item. Here, metadata plays an important role while creating a digital repository. Metadata is the data about data which helps us to retrieve the information easily over the web with some standardized keywords and tags. The open access softwares, the open source softwares and open access standards can benefit the institutions in many ways. Like a repository can interfere with the other university systems and maximize efficiencies between them by sharing information. It increases visibility and the repute of the institution depending on the content it contains in the digital repository. Repository content is readily researchable both by locally and globally, allows an institution to manage their intellectual property rights by raising awareness about copyright issues and facilitating the recordings of relevant right to information. A repository that contains high quality content could be used as shop window or marketing tool to the entire staff, students and other funding agencies. It has some benefits for the global community over the internet. It can assist the research collaboration through facilitating free exchange of scholarly information. It can aid the public understanding of research endeavors and activities, and the society can get the maximum benefit of the research outputs by an institution. So getting why in it, there are some points that we should keep in mind while creating a digital repository. That is the cultural change, which is classically commonly brought about through engagement with academics on one of the three levels, like intellectual, conceptual, logical and greater good, emotional and the political, that is negotiation, extreme drivers and compliance with the policy of the state or the country. These are some important questions we have to ask and get the answers while creating a digital repository for our own institution. That is, what is an institutional repository and what does it mean to you? Have you outlined and documented the purpose and the drivers for institutional repository established in your institution? Have you defined your vision and initial goals? Have you decided how to position an institutional repository within your wider information environment? What is the target content of the repository? This could include research papers and data, electronic thesis, as well as the teaching and learning materials. Have you completed a stakeholders analysis? Stakeholders are those people with a vested interest in how the repository represents in the institution and themselves to the world. In case of institutional repository, stakeholders will include senior institutional manager, departmental leaders and the academic staffs and also the students or the researchers of the institution who can contribute the content to the institutional repository. Another question is to ask is, do you have an institution-wide IPR policy, that is intellectual property right policy? Have you done a risk assessment while creating repository and related to the IPR? Have you identified extent skill and personal skilled expertise of the personnel within the institution to create and maintain the repository? What sort of statistics and management reports you want from your institutional repository? How to disseminate the information to the scholarly community? These are the questions we need to ask and keep in mind while creating a digital repository for our own institution. And finally, the copyright is an important issue while creating a digital repository. We need to keep in mind there are many types of self-archiving policies like Romeo Sherpa, WITS tutor, etc. So, an institutional repository can be very helpful for institution to preserve the information produced by the institution and disseminate the information to the scholarly community as and when required. Thank you.